Streaming on YouTube. There we go. Okay, so coming up in 10, 11 minutes, people, Michael Finley, my old mate from Jingly Jangly days, or Daily Brexit days. Blimey, I haven't had a chat for a long time. Michael in California, coming up in 10 minutes with his take on, oh blimey, what's going on? All the nonsense and what have you. Right, okay, let me shove on a bit of music. So if you're watching an archive version, you might want to fast forward about 10 minutes. Or if you like copyright-free music, then you can enjoy that. All right. If I can cue it up. And grab a beer, people. It's a Saturday. You know what I mean? It's a Saturday. It's definitely a Saturday. Right, here we go. Yeah, 8 minutes, 7.5 minutes. Yeah, give or take.
Living in the same routine, like the seasons I'm on repeat.
Like quarantine. Like quarantine, he means. Living in the same routine, I tell you.
Trying not to follow suit. Don't like the color, I'll change the shade of it. I'm not afraid of it.
Doesn't matter what colour, mate. You vote for it. It's all the bloody same.
I know I'm holding on to this. Holding on. I know I'm holding on to this. Holding on.
Hold it. He's getting excited.
I know I'm
tell you what, this bloke needs to cheer up. He needs to cheer up! Come on, it might never happen.
Fast forward a year or two.
Yeah.
Friends have changed, but so can you. So can you. For too long about the mistakes. While I resent, I learned to hate. Forgot your names. Fear the struggle to follow on. Need to focus to prove.
Right, you got 5 minutes to share this show, people. 5 minutes to share the show.
I know I'm holding on to this, holding on. I know I'm holding on to this, holding on. Don't let me repeat it.
Blimey, it's enough to get you back on the bottle, isn't it? Oh dear. Hope the next one's a bit. Come on. Wake up. Here we go. Right. afternoon, good morning, good evening, good people, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to the Daily Chaos. I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for turning up. And now, Finley. Michael Finley, me old mate, popped in to have a chat. All the way from California. And he's not too mad for a Californian. Chewing the coronavirus cud. Oh, blimey, I don't know. Recovering from Saturday lunch, actually. Hey, Finley. Good afternoon, sir.
Great to see you, man. How are you?
Good to see you. Been a long time. How long? How long? It's been a couple of years, I think, since we had a chat.
It has been a couple of years.
Blimey, mate. Can you believe it? You had a sabbatical, didn't you? You got off Facebook for a while. I needed a break or something. No?
Yeah. I still kind of limit how I do it. Honestly, I'm mad at Zuckerberg over all the privacy violations.
Yeah, me too. I just got another ban the other day. We're going out on YouTube now, but we're not going out on Facebook because I got another 3-month ban just the other day for mentioning somebody's name. Tommy Robinson, yeah, this guy who exposed the mass rape and torture and murder gangs in the UK. The same gangs that the British Prime Minister told the police to ignore. I'm not joking. And if I mention Gordon Brown, that Prime Minister, and his Home Secretary Jackie Smith about what they did, then very fine. I'll probably get an honour. But if I mention Tommy Robinson, who was exposing those problems, I get a 3-month video ban. Can you believe it? That's Facebook for you. Michael Finley, I should say, is a human rights lawyer who does a lot of work in the marijuana neck of the woods, which maybe he can tell us a bit more about, but medical marijuana and stuff like that. He's a certified health foodie and more recently has become a stand-up comic. So you, Michael, are my kind of lawyer.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Let's play.
A lot of divorces too, so I'm extra crazy.
I'm sorry? Go on.
I do a lot of divorces too, so I'm extra crazy.
What, you personally? You've had a lot of divorces already?
No. I've only had one, but as an attorney, I do divorces too.
You're going to do a lot more soon, off the back of the quarantine.
I think so. Yeah, as people are hiding together in their homes, I think some of them are really having some strain on their relationships. But it's either going to result in baby booms or in divorce booms or both.
Corona babies or a divorce hike. You know, that is actually a fascinating topic in itself, isn't it? I mean, I feel quite lucky because me and my wife, we work together, we live together, we work in the same, our studies are next door to each other. So we're used to putting up with each other, basically, particularly in her case, putting up with me. But a lot of couples are not. And it strikes me that is a massive issue. A lot of people who haven't had time, probably because they're too busy paying, I don't know, tax until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, are suddenly beginning to realise that they've got somebody else in their life and they've practically forgotten everything about them.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the things that would help to keep in mind is this is a stressful situation. So sometimes we let the stress really get to us and it really can endanger a relationship in ways that it ought not to. But so I'm hoping people will keep that in mind. I don't want to wish a divorce on anybody, even though I'll make money from it. I do think it's important to try to keep in mind, look, you're under stress. It's a difficult situation. You're going to be tense. You're going to be a bit on edge. Keep that in mind in all your relationships.
We do. We have to cut each other
with your children,
slack.
with friends. Keep that in mind. You may be more tense than what you would normally be.
One thing I've noticed, I want to play some of your stand-up in a sec and have a bit of fun. But one thing I've noticed with this peculiar, surreal situation that we're in and that we're kind of morphing into as it goes around the world, it's a bit like, I don't know, seeing in the new year, except that we're seeing in coronavirus as it kind of goes round and filters through. Is one of the beautiful things I've noticed is how people are calling each other. I mean, I've noticed myself, my natural instinct is to want to call people that I haven't spoken to for a long time or what have you, and other people are doing the same. People that had given up on me years ago seem to be getting back in touch. And that have you noticed that yet in California? Have you in that groove?
Yeah, I do think so. And, you know, the online community does make a difference because you can also, you know, chat with people on there. And it's good to know that people care. That's a bit of support that we all need, honestly.
Right. Let's have a bit of fun. I'm going to play some of your stand-up, and let's have a look at this. Oh, blimey! I hope. Hold on. Oh no! Is it gonna? I want it to show on. Oh no! Why is it not showing on screen? Hold on a sec. Let me see if I can get this to show on screen. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh no! We've got the audio.
Okay.
No.
Should I just lip sync it?
Yeah. I haven't got the audio either. Okay, while I try and sort that out, how did you go? Okay, so you're not doing marijuana stuff at the moment. You've stopped dealing.
No, I still do legal work for people relating to cannabis. I still represent people in courts, and I still do papers for businesses. If a business is forming and doing things relating to cannabis, I do still that kind of work as well.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. But you're pretty versatile. You've gone from that, which is presumably kind of commercial law, no, to domestic law, divorce.
Well, I've been doing, unfortunately, divorces for a very, very long time. I've been an attorney over 26 years. My father was an attorney. My father did almost everything. I narrowed it down quite a bit from what he used to do. He used to call himself the last of the general practitioners. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2004. And so as I've been on my own, I've been more limited in what I do. So I do mostly business work and things, including some criminal law relating to cannabis, and I do the family law thing still.
So your practice is an old family practice?
Yeah, started out as Finley and Finley with my dad.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Let me see if I can get this audio working now then. Hold on. Chaos. Oh, blimey. There we go. Stop that. Right, here we go. Okay, this is Finley, people. Finley in action. I'll rewind this a bit. And
one day when I graduated from high school, he asked me what I wanted.
Hold on, I'll put it to the beginning. Beginning of this act. Oh no, I've cocked it up. There we go.
Wow. I'm an attorney. Some of my clients are cheering for me in the audience because it's cheaper to see me here. And my dad was also an attorney. One day when I graduated from high school, he asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, I'm leaning towards either acting or psychology. My dad said, why not do both? Be an attorney.
One of the fields I've practiced is family law. That's a crazy field. Divorces, custody battles, support, that kind of thing. I actually know a judge. He was excellent family law judge. He decided he wanted less stress in his life, so he switched to hearing criminal cases. Apparently robberies and homicides are less traumatic than divorces. After you get a divorce, you find yourself in this strange new world of online human shopping. Scrolling through pictures like it's eBay or Amazon Prime or something. I think, and you know what's weird is people are not really making a serious commitment a lot of the time. So instead of like a long-term deal on Auto Trader, it's more like a short-term rental on Uber. I think that's the next app. There's Uber Rides, Uber Eats, next will be Uber Dates. We'll be saying,
That was awful, Finley.
corner of Magnolia and First. I need a date in 5 minutes, but just for the next 2 hours. Not that one, not that one. Ooh, that one looks sporty and quick. The roles out there in dating have gotten really strange too. Like there's sugar babies, sugar daddies, swingers, unicorns, cougars, CDs, TSs, all kinds of things. You've heard of a MILF, right? A mom I'd like to fuck?
Yeah.
There's another thing called a GILF. A grandpa I'd like to fuck. This is an actual thing.
This is a family show, Finley.
Depends is bringing sexy back. A few years ago, I became a grandpa, so I'm thinking, wow, I'm a GILF. But someone has to actually want to fuck you. So it turned out I was just a grandpa. Until I got a divorce, then I got to be a GILF. I met this cute Filipina MILF who was into the whole GILF thing. And I was her booty call. I was a MILF's GILF booty call. One night I get the call, I go to her place, we're sipping some wine, we're smoking a few bowls, we're getting into it. And she says, "You don't mind if my boyfriend watches, do you?" And she puts a painting of Jesus next to the bed to watch us. I thought it was weird, but I was horny, so we're getting down and Jesus is like, a few days later on Facebook, I asked, can Christianity be called peaceful if it was spread around the world at the point of a sword? The MILF saw it and she got furious. She said that I disrespected religion. I'm like, I disrespected religion with a question? You had us cuckolding Jesus. I'm not worried about going to hell because Jesus said, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Looks like he cuckolded Joseph, so apparently that's what he wants to.
Right, Finley, thank you very much indeed. You're outrageous, aren't you? You're pretty outrageous, sir.
Well, yeah. It's comedy. Comedy tends to push some boundaries.
Yeah, that's right. You're pushing some MILFs by the looks of it.
Yeah,
well,
you didn't get to my Bernie Sanders impersonation.
Eh? What? No. Did you do a Bernie Sanders impression in there?
Yeah, at the end I polished it off with a Bernie Sanders.
Oh, I did miss that. I did miss that. But that is the perfect segue because the comedy, I mean, actually, it's not funny at all. But the fact is that the comedy in the Democrat camp is beyond surreal, no? I mean, what is it? I mean, Sanders, yeah, was pretty funny. But Biden, I mean, what's the deal with that? He is, I guess, he would like to be a gilf.
Well, I actually feel somewhat protected now from Biden by the social distancing requirements.
Aye, aye, aye. Now,
Yeah.
I should say that Michael Finley ran for president as an independent against Trump
did.
and Clinton and whoever else. Well, I suppose it was Trump and Clinton, wasn't it?
2016. I did really well. I got, I think, maybe 3 votes.
Yeah, independents
One of them was mine.
do notoriously badly. I mean, it's practically impossible. That
It's actually the Jewish side of me. I didn't want to actually spend money.
yes.
Because to
Right.
get your name on all the ballots in the United States, it costs about 60 grand. And part of my point was to not take money from anybody. And I was a little too Jewish to spend the 60 grand.
So, okay. And so, in other words, you ran for POTUS before the primaries then, because that's presumably when the money kicks in.
I started running before the primaries, but I carried it all the way through the end. Did a lot of videos, had a real platform, and did a lot of commentary on important political issues and things.
So, what's the 60 grand for? That's the kind of entry fee, but for what?
Every state, if you want your name to be included on the ballot to where people
Right.
can vote for you, you have to pay
Right.
money. And there's
Right.
50 states. So by the time you add up what you got to spend in every state, it's about $60,000.
So, can people still vote for you if you're not on the ballot?
Kind of. I mean, supposedly you can write in a candidate, but in a lot of states, if they haven't officially qualified that candidate as a write-in, then it doesn't count.
Right. Yeah. I guess it should do.
Some people said to me that when I voted for myself, I was wasting a vote, but I said, no, I wasn't, because I got to make a point of giving a great big middle finger to the system. So to me, that was worth the trip to the polling place.
Yeah, no, sure. So what do you think now then? I know that your opinions and my opinions on the incumbent in the White House are slightly different. And so I was really looking forward to having this debate with you. I mean, I don't entirely trust the guy, but I think I am a lot more hopeful about him than you are. No, do you still retain the same skepticism that you had about Trump when he was running for president?
Very much so. I think he's actually proven himself to be exactly what I was hoping he would not be. Every president makes promises, and some of the promises sound good.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the promises you like best are not the promises that they follow through on. And right now, we've seen, in my opinion, some really, really bad handling of the situation with the pandemic. I know a lot of people still are convinced he's fantastic. That's fine. You're entitled to an opinion, even if it's wrong. But Trump has not put us onto the pandemic protocol that has worked in every country it's been tried in. Mass distribution of masks, a lot of testing early and often, and following up with people. If you find out somebody's infected, checking to see who if they had contact with, and then making a point of testing those people too. That's worked everywhere it's been tried. Instead, we were told we don't need masks. Why were we told that? Probably because we didn't have the masks in the first place. We had a pandemic office that should have been handling this, and the office was shut down. Trump was asked about that by a few different reporters, And he just said, well, I'm not the one who did that. It must have been somebody else in my administration. I'm sorry, but you're the chief executive. So you're responsible for what your administration does. The pandemic office is part of the executive branch. It shouldn't have been disbanded at a time that all of the scientists on the planet have been telling us we're in danger of a pandemic. They've told us our two main dangers are global warming or climate change and a pandemic. And you shut down the pandemic office. It shouldn't have happened. Now the US is number one in coronavirus outbreak cases. I do hope people will be careful, that they'll get masks, wear them, use them. I mean, I'm not wearing it right now because we're on different sides of the pond. So we have like the ultimate social distancing here. So we're safe.
Yeah.
But if I'm anywhere outside of a closed door in my office or my home, I'm wearing the mask.
Yeah.
I take it off in my car when I'm the only one in the car. As soon as I open that door, the mask is on. We really should be doing that. We were told that the virus molecules are so small they can go through the mask. But guess what? That's not how the virus molecules, they don't go out there just entirely by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They get carried in something. They get carried in saliva or in moisture from breath or in mucus in a cough or a sneeze. This stops those things. The masks, they stop those things.
Well,
a
actually,
bandana can stop those things. If you can't get a mask, put something on. Put on a scarf, put on a bandana, something that helps to be a barrier to keep that from getting into your system. You do have to wash your hands. You got to clean surfaces. You got to be cleaning off hard surfaces in particular, like cell phones, my glasses. I wash my glasses every night.
Yeah, no,
often,
I do.
Often a
I
couple
do.
times a day, I'm washing my glasses.
My glasses keep falling off in the supermarket with those damn bloody mask. And so if I put the glasses up too high, then they steam up. So I put them below on the kind of the thing of the nose of the mask or whatever, and then they keep falling off. And so I keep picking them up, putting them back on my face, picking them up, putting them back on my face, and I'm thinking, I'm probably contracting coronavirus from the floor doing this. I mean, but the masks is one thing, but actually probably more useful than anything is gloves. Masks is good to prevent yourself giving this to other people, isn't it? I suppose.
Sanitizing spray on the hands. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
I keep one in my office, one in my car, one in my home. When I get home, I spray the bottom of my shoes when I walk in because I don't like to leave my shoes on the porch. I know that's a great idea. I spray the bottom of my shoes when I come in. We've got to be taking this very seriously. Well, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. I don't believe most of them.
It's a shame we can't take these kind of precautions with our politicians. So what is the deal, Michael?
We can take these. We can make decisions about our own lives regardless of politicians. We can.
Really? But I mean, okay. Hold on. Let me take issue with you first of all about Trump, because compared to I'm not saying that he was like quick off the mark with stopping non-essential international flights from hot zones like China and South Korea, as was, and then Italy, because he wasn't. But compared to everybody else, he was like the hare, or no, the tortoise. I don't know. The tortoise and the hare, isn't it? He was faster, basically, out of the traps at stopping those flights from China than anyone in the EU, for example. I'm not saying that he was on top of it, but compared to everybody else, he was.
Well, I'm not saying he didn't do anything. He definitely did some things.
You don't think you don't think he was proactive enough?
The right things.
You think that he was slacking?
If he had done enough, U.S. would not be number one in the world in coronavirus outbreak right now.
Yeah, hold on a sec. Let's have a quick look. Let's have a very, very quick look at the latest stats. But I mean, can you even trust the stats? How can you trust anything that is said by a communist dictatorship, which is what the mainstream media wants us to believe? They want us to believe that, they're salivating at every possible orifice at the idea that we should be believing this communist dictatorship as opposed to a relatively democratically presented president of the United States. No? I mean, it's preposterous. Who are we to believe? Should we believe the official version of events? And any of these statistics to be taken with anything other than a pinch of salt, not least of all because, as I think you mentioned, there aren't the testing kits. The ones in Spain, apparently, are all defunct. None of them work. Guess what? They were made in China. I mean, we are in a peculiar situation, aren't we? We don't really know what we're dealing with. And in fairness to the Trumps and the Boris Johnsons and the even, oh God, I feel sick rising into my throat saying it. But even the EU, you could argue that in fairness to these leaders, elected or not, they were maybe just doing a balancing act. I mean, Trump said, what was it? He said, don't let the cure be worse than the cause. And that presumably has been a big worry for these leaders. Do we go too far? Do we try and stem this and stop all the flights and all the rest of it, but then create a bigger problem through poverty?
Well, and it is a big problem. And I will give people some credit in that in the past, what we thought would be big pandemics kind of fizzled out. Like SARS, for example, we were told SARS was going to end the world and it fizzled out in Asia. But why did it fizzle out? Primarily because they used masks. In the culture, they used masks, they disinfect, they leave their shoes outside. They were already doing things that would help to stop the spread, and it did stop it. So we have all, as a society, become complacent in thinking that that's what's going to happen. Every time we're told the world is going to end, really, the boy has cried wolf like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And we've been told the world is going to end so many times. It was going to end in 2000. It was going to end in 2012 with the Mayan calendar thing, which turned out to maybe be a prophecy about the end of Twinkies, but they did resurrect somehow. So the pastry gods have got our back. But and so sometimes we are very hard on our politicians. Sometimes we expect a lot from our politicians. Honestly, I think it's most important that we take responsibilities ourselves. But there's limits on what I can do. Now, I actually have a secretary who went to visit relatives in Guatemala and is now stuck there and can't get back.
Really?
And that's a problem. It's a problem for her. It's a problem for me. And she's not the only one. There's all kinds of people stuck in places. A friend was telling me about a friend that went to go, they were going to spend a month in Egypt. And now there's nothing to do in Egypt. And they're wishing they could get home and they can't. So it has become a very difficult challenge for everybody.
What sort of level of quarantine do you have now in California? You're in your office at the moment, aren't you? You're not at home.
Yes. Attorneys are considered essential function. So I'm allowed to still go to and from work. I don't have, the Gestapo checking papers as I travel.
We don't get any respite from lawyers. Okay,
but unfortunately, I had some comedy performances that got canceled because all entertainment venues got shut down. I love singing karaoke. I often play harmonica when I sing karaoke. I can't do karaoke anymore. That's become The Masked Singer, and then got canceled. So it's frustrating. It really is. And you can't get we can't sit down in a restaurant now. You can only get takeout food. You can't sit down in a bar. You basically can't have gatherings of any significant number. Public gatherings had been restricted to 20 and then 10, and then just like don't gather in public. You're allowed to go out for very essential things, like to get groceries, to do some banking, to go to the doctor, and then you're supposed to go home. It's not heavily enforced. They did have to shut things down because people were ignoring it. Huge numbers of people were showing up in crowds on, for example, the famous Malibu Pier here in Southern California. People were still crowding beaches because their jobs were shut down. So they all went to the beach in droves by the thousands, not social distancing. So then the government came and said, you know what? We're bringing in the cops. We're shutting down the beach. People were not taking it seriously. And honestly, if we had taken the responsibility of taking it seriously, they wouldn't be shutting these things down. And then it feels even more draconian. We feel like we're in a totalitarian dictatorship now. And if we had been more responsible as individuals, they wouldn't have to do that.
Just to give you a bit of a heads up, it's kind of like that in Europe. I think it's a bit tighter. In the UK, for example, excuse me, you're allowed to go out to exercise once a day. How they police that? How they police that is another matter. Actually, I just had a cup. I was making a coffee, wasn't I? I went out to make a coffee before the show, Michael, and I realized there was no coffee in the cafeteria. So I went to get some to put it in, and I hadn't got any ground. And the missus was having a siesta, so I couldn't grind any coffee. So I had a Tai Chi tea. So that probably is my extra special coronavirus tea right there. And if I start sweating by the end of the show, in the UK, it's kind of gatherings of 2 or more are prohibited. I think the parks are closed now. All the pubs, all that, all closed. No restaurants. I think the takeouts are not quite closed there. I think from one of my contacts in Canada that they're closed there, though. They've even closed the takeouts. In Spain, where I am, it's a little bit more draconian than in the UK. Slightly more, not a lot, but a little bit more. In that, well, I mean, it's a big thing, really. You're not allowed to go out even for one exercise a day. You're not allowed to do that. The only time you get to go out is if you're taking the bins, or if you're going to the supermarket, or go to the doctor, something like that. No banking. So it's a little bit more draconian here. And I have to say that when I take out the organics, and I take out just a little bit, and then can go out with a bit more later on, or whatever, take out your rubbish. And I'm going from one organics bin to the next, just carrying this thing. Just have a walk. Just have a wander. Yeah. And it is like that. And I do wonder how this is going to affect people off the back of another. I know it's impossible to say, but what's your gut feeling on how long we're going to be in this peculiar situation?
I think that we're on a learning curve right now. And because there are places that shut it down already. China already got through it. And at first I thought, how on earth did you get through it already? But they did. They got through it.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Well, I happen to know a few people in China.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
So you do actually have more reliable sources than CNN.
Yeah. Well, I watch a lot of news. I prefer more independent news. But I do watch some of the mainstream news too. But I also do my best to communicate with people. In fact, I know somebody who is from China, but was living here, went back to China, and then again, flights got shut down. They couldn't come back. So I've talked to them a few times. Early on, they had a mask on. Even indoors, they had a mask on. And like they've got the mask on and they take the mask on, hi, and then put the mask back on,
really?
like looking around. Did anybody see me have the mask off, right?
Yeah.
And now They don't have a mask. They're going around doing business. They're working, but they were supposed to fly back to the U.S. Late March, about now, or early April, and now, who knows when the flights are canceled till. I think it's going to affect us for a few months. It's going to affect us, I think, the rest of our lives at this point. But I don't think it's going to be at this level the rest of our lives.
Surely nothing like this level. I mean, it will become more like a regular, if you like, flu. Less of an issue than regular flu by a long chalk, actually, according to the
David
CDC.
Icke is wrong.
Pardon?
I'm hopeful that David Icke is wrong. He believes that we're about to be in a what he calls the Hunger Games society, a one world government with totalitarian control and everything. I'm hoping that he's wrong about that. I don't feel that way, honestly. I don't feel like that's where we're going. But
there are people, prominent people, that are calling for exactly what David Icke fears. I mean, Gordon Brown, for example, former Prime Minister in the UK, guy who totally followed the George Herbert Walker Bush doctrine of the New World Order, had Tourette's about a New World Order. In fact, Gordon Brown, when he was Prime Minister.
New World Order, yeah.
He was calling for one world government to sort out coronavirus. I think that he would call for one world government to sort out a flat tire, let alone coronavirus. But so you think that if you like, ultra globalist, a globalist extremist kind of dogma, you don't think that it's going to be able to permeate? You don't think it's going to somehow take root as some sort of an excuse to solve this particular crisis then? Or indeed, as has been cited, I think at the UN, for example, as an excuse with global warming or whatever for one world government. Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
When you have an agenda, then you're going to look for opportunities to push your agenda. That's the reality of it. Whatever your agenda is. I'm not religious. I used to be. And you know what? I've given some people some ribbing about religion at this point as well. And so whatever your focus on is in your mind, you're going to look for opportunities to bring that out. So yeah, if someone is already leaning towards globalism, they're going to see this as an opportunity to push globalism as a solution. I don't see globalism as a solution. Not to this, not to really anything. And I can tell you, Americans are not ready to accept globalism.
Contrarily, has globalism not been exposed? Has it not let us down?
There's a strong argument it has, although those who are globalists would say, well, how can you say that we've let you down when we haven't really had our way yet? Let us have our way with you first before you tell us it was a bad experience, right?
Blimey.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein, but I think I'd rather not have you let you have your way with me. Stop sniffing my hair, Joe Biden.
Do your people in China, have they mentioned, I understand that just yesterday there were riots going on in Hubei province. That's the Wuhan type greater metropolis, or so I understand.
I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about that.
One of the worries, Michael.
My connections are not in Wuhan.
Fair enough. One of the worries that many people are citing about this thing, that one of the great unknowns about stopping quarantine too early, is if there is then a second wave. And
there can be a second wave.
Pardon? Go on.
There can be a second wave. It can happen.
Is it not? Is there not a need to bring the quarantine, to soften it in such a way that, for example, you maybe open up the country, the nation, get it trading as much as it can internally and externally, where it doesn't involve too much international flight, and then open up international flight, for example, later on. I mean, we can't just go back to what we were, 2-3 months ago in the West overnight, can we? We have to, because that second wave is a danger. No,
there are definitely dangers, and there's dangers for multiple reasons. Okay, and one of the reasons is that this thing can mutate. It apparently did mutate. We had a variety of coronaviruses before, and then something mutated to become this one. And people might actually develop immunities to it, and then it might mutate again. And that immunity may not last in protecting you from the new mutated version. That is a serious concern. What we have to do is we've got to change how we do things. And part of the problem is that we do way too much touching. We spit on the sidewalk. There used to be fines for spitting on the sidewalk. They're on the books in a lot of places still. They're not enforced so much until probably now.
Yeah.
But, the reason that came to be was because of tuberculosis. Tuberculosis was spreading because people would cough, they'd spit on the sidewalk, other people walk across it and track it into their daily lives. We made changes in cutting down on spitting on the sidewalk because of tuberculosis. We're going to have to make adjustments with the concept in mind that we have to be more careful. And honestly, apparently this is nature or God, depending on what you believe, using natural selection in favor of germophobic people with OCD, because now they're better set up to survive now. So we're all going to have to become a little bit of germaphobes. We're all going to have a bit of OCD, honestly, in order to go forward. We can return to a fairly normal life, but that normal life is going to require being a lot more conscious about being sanitary.
I should point out, I did mention it, but
that,
you
if
are.
we're more sanitary, we are going to be able to have a life again.
I should just point out that Michael does have some experience about some of this stuff. What is your actual title, Michael? You're a certified
natural health professional.
Natural health professional. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
that doesn't make me an epidemiologist.
Sure. But it does give you a bit of an idea on basic common sense as to what people should and should not be intaking to try and bolster their immune systems, presumably.
Well, our immune systems are extremely important. And we were already, as a society, doing a lot of things that are not good for our immune systems. Okay. And those immune systems, they include things like our liver and our kidneys. And we're not doing enough of eating the types of foods, using the types of herbs, having the type of nutrition that maintains the health of these important organs that help to scrub our bodies clean. And, taking a lot of toxins into the system honestly doesn't help. And now we're exposed to a huge amount of toxins as we sanitize. You can use sanitizing that is a little less toxic. Alcohol is less toxic than chemicals, but it does kill germs. And there's things we can do. So for example, you can use your dryer to help sanitize things. Okay. If I take my coat off and I spray it down with a little alcohol spray and I toss it in the dryer, and hopefully it doesn't burst into flames since I just put a flammable thing on it. But maybe I give it a few minutes first. Then as it's tumbling in that dryer, the heat is hopefully helping to damage the virus and make it less likely to be able to cause harm. And it's breaking up. The agitation is breaking up stuff that's stuck to the surface
Yeah.
And so that's an easy way to kind of sanitize clothing, running it through the laundry, running it through the dryer.
How much
Um,
do you think?
Most
How much?
viruses don't do well in oxygen.
No, sure, absolutely. That makes sense. Viruses don't like the warmth. They prefer the cold air. How much do you think that clothes are at risk realistically? I mean, if you're out shopping and stuff, if you're not rubbing up against other people, I don't know, on the bus or whatever, on the tube, then presumably your clothes are not going to be too affected. Or do you think that people, when they come in from doing some exercise out and about, what have you, they really, really should be conservative, if you like, and bung all their clothes in the washing machine?
Well, in the past, we've had these kind of somewhat extreme panics. For example, when the AIDS epidemic happened,
Yeah.
everybody was panicked. We were worried about every kind of thing, whether it was spit or anything, we were worried
Yeah.
about. And eventually, we got enough data that we could tell these are the specific things that make us in danger of acquiring HIV
Yeah.
and developing the AIDS syndrome.
Yeah.
So the same thing is likely to happen here. We're going to get more information over time. In the meantime, I think it's better to take extra measures to be more safe.
Yeah.
And
right.
so I think it's important that we be washing our clothes regularly. You run a load of laundry, go wash your hands before you do anything else. Don't put the clothes in the laundry and then grab a sandwich.
Yeah.
You've got to wash your hands first.
Yeah.
So some fairly simple techniques of just being more sanitary are going to help.
How fastidious are you with your shopping, say? I mean, I'm coming home and I'm even washing the veg. I mean, I guess you do before you cook it or what have you normally, but when I take it out of the bag, I put the shopping bags in the washing machine the other day. I don't know if I was being a bit pedantic or what. It seems to me that if you put things in the fridge, that's a great place for a virus, presumably to I don't know, have a party.
It's cold.
Yeah. You do have to. You should be wiping things down when you bring them in the house, shouldn't you? Really, whatever it is.
I was already somewhat careful, okay, because and there's a lot of dangers out there that a lot of people don't even know about. I don't even know how people don't know about them. For example, leptospirosis is spread by rats, primarily in the urine of rats, and rats run rampant through warehouses. No matter what they do to try to control rats, you're still going to get some rats in warehouses. So you pick up a can of food, it could have leptospirosis from rat pee on top of the can. So I'm always washing the cans off before I open them up. I'm washing off the top of a beer or, well, soda. I can't drink soda. I haven't been able to drink them for a few decades, but funny, I can eat like the hottest foods on the planet, but I can't tolerate a soda pop. So it kills my stomach acid, and then I have indigestion for a while. So, but I would
reasonable
rinse
priorities
off the lids for 20 seconds. They tell you wash your hands for 20 seconds. I was rinsing off lids for 20 seconds already from decades ago, just trying to be careful of possible germs. Now, you get home, you're unloading groceries, you've got all these things. You've got boxes, you've got packages, you've got bags. What do you do about all of that? Well,
I'll tell you.
Right now, I think it's best to go ahead and take precautions, even if they turn out later to be extra precautions.
Yeah, sure.
It's better to be too cautious than to be not cautious enough right now.
Yeah,
because the infections are real. The virus is real. You've still got people out there saying, "Oh no, it's not real. This is a made-up story. This is they're just trying to cause economic collapse. It's a conspiracy." And you have different groups saying different things about the conspiracy. I've heard everything that from China did this to that God did this in order to punish people for not voting for Trump. That's why it hit the more liberal parts of the country first, and the more conservative parts of the country didn't get it. It couldn't possibly be that there's just larger densities of population in the more liberal parts and smaller, more spread out population in the more conservative parts. It has to be God that is behind this. God is punishing liberals.
You've corrected me. I did think it was a plague on the liberals, but no, you've you've given me pause for thought. I think, okay, so with regards these theories about the origin of it, have you got any thoughts on that? I mean, the official version of events is that some bloke bit the head off a bat that had an affair with a snake or something, and maybe that's true.
Right.
Maybe that's true. Then there's the key number one theory that it came out of a lab, and the question is, was it one of those biowarfare labs in Wuhan? And the question is, was it deliberately leaked or erroneously? So there's kind of three theories there, aren't there? Do you have any take on any of that, Michael?
Well, I'm always suspicious when I hear things like that the outbreak started near a bioweapons lab, such as what happened with Ebola breaking out in Western Africa near the Tulane University U.S. AMRID joint bioweapons laboratory in Sierra Leone. Does that guarantee that's where it came from? No. But when you start checking genetic markers and you find that it's actually a manufactured thing, as actually appeared to be the case with Ebola, but the Ebola outbreak a few years ago, then I'm becoming more suspicious. But I don't automatically jump into buying the whole conspiracy. Now, with this one, I actually heard some early reports that some people were checking the genetics of this virus and seemed to feel it was genetically modified. Now, I'm not hearing that anymore. I'm hearing scientists say that they've checked it and it appears to have naturally evolved. So you do have all reports saying it started in Wuhan. I am very bothered that some people are mistreating Asian people. If you are going to mistreat Asian people, that's fine. I'll date them if you're not going to date Asian women because of the because of your concerns about the virus. Leave them for me. That's fine. But I'm single. Asian women, I'm available. But everybody else too. But I am not buying into right now that this came from a bioweapons laboratory. Certainly some of the markets in Wuhan and in certain parts of China, again, it comes down to being sanitary. Some of those markets are not so sanitary. If you're going to eat exotic meats, I mean, I've eaten snake before. I've even killed and cooked rattlesnake myself before, and ate it. You have to understand that you've got to take precautions if you're handling something exotic. Haven't had rattlesnake in several years, but and it does taste like chicken.
Does it?
But you've got to understand if you're handling something, you got to be careful how you handle it. You got to realize that there can be different types of pathogens that are connected with animals. Maybe it's better. You got a lot of people that are vegetarians and vegans who say this is another good reason to not being animals. You're not eating animals. Maybe they're right. And frankly, I'm much kinder to most animals now than I used to be. If I see a snake, I'm out hiking, I'm going to help it off the trail. I'm not going to just kill it because it's a snake. I think I've evolved as a human being to be more compassionate to other forms of life. And there's a good argument for that. Now, we do still get sometimes an outbreak of something from a fruit or a vegetable. So anything we do, if we're consuming foods, we're going to have to learn to be more sanitary, but also we are going to develop some level of herd immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So what?
you know,
Yes.
we're the one
Yes.
species on the planet that actually does something to treat and disinfect and deal with things. The rest of the animals on the planet, they don't do that. Dogs don't get together and form a council and decide, you know what, cats are a bit more viral right now. Squirrels are getting the bubonic plague. Let's not chase cats and squirrels anymore. They don't do that. They keep living their lives, and the ones that die, and the other ones survive. We as humans, we try to help protect each other and ourselves. But like other animals, as they get exposed to things, eventually we are going to build up a herd immunity to this. With or without a vaccine, there will be a development of herd immunity. That will happen. When will it happen? Will it be by Easter so that we can all be back to business by Easter, like Trump says? No, it's not going to be by Easter. I'll go ahead and call that right now. We're not going to have an international global herd immunity by Easter.
What was he
Might
actually
it
saying
be sometime
there,
this year? It might be.
You know, I hear you. I do think, and again, I want to kind of contest this with you, really, to kind of play with this this bone, have a tussle over this bone, which is Trump, whether or not is being fairly treated by the media. Because, I mean, yeah, he said that about Easter, getting America back to work and what have you. But in fairness to him, well, there's 2 points here. I'll come on to the second one in a minute. But first of all, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the first one, which is that he just wants to instill some hope. Because the alternative to that is, you know what, everybody, be depressed. And you could say it's been the same thing with Boris Johnson in the UK, for example, as well, who's kind of like, you know, brought this kind of slowly, softly, and you're getting martial law, but it's happening slowly in incremental stages so that you don't notice it. It's like the frog in the boiling water or whatever. But you could argue, and I'm not sure that it's entirely correct to say this, but you could argue that that's the right approach, because otherwise you're going to create panic.
I'm fine with the idea of giving people hope. And honestly, we need some hope. So, and you probably know me from all the years that we've known each other here and the different conversations we've had on and off the air, that I'm somebody who will give credit even to a leader I don't like, because they're going to make some decisions that are right. Okay. I have no problem with the desire to give people hope and to give encouragement to the markets. I have no problem with the efforts of trying to give some financial relief to the people of the United States. And Trump called out somebody who was one of the Republicans who was being a bit of a holdout on a relief package, and he called him out very publicly and kind of shamed him quite a bit. And you know what? The relief package finally went through. I've been telling people, if these people can't get over political differences and help us in a time of crisis like this, they all should be thrown out, because they need to put those political differences aside, and they need to be focusing on us and getting us through this. So I'm not going to say Trump has done nothing good, but I am going to say, and stick to it, that we should have been on the pandemic protocol. The entire pretty much scientific and medical community of the world has said we need a pandemic protocol. Here's what it is. It needs to be followed when there's a pandemic. The U.S. is almost following it now, but not quite. Now, there is something good he did. And it's not entirely too late. It is late. It's not too late. He's got manufacturers gearing up to produce masks and other things that we need.
Yeah.
That is a positive
Ventilators.
step. Yeah.
People like
Yeah,
GM,
ventilators.
General Motors. And he hasn't had to strong arm them to do it either, has he? Which has been quite nice. There have been some major companies, auto companies and what have you, who've said, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Even
Tesla is retooling to help produce things that we need right now.
Yeah, no, that's pretty
And
cool. It has to be said, Michael.
Individuals.
You talk about the scientific community, but the WHO, for example, not entirely through their own fault. I haven't got any time for the WHO, as an aside, but in terms of what's happened here, they were denied access to China for yonks, weren't they? Until, 6-7 weeks ago, something like that, and finally get in, but didn't actually declare.
I didn't know if we were talking about my generation or doing the World Health Organization.
But they didn't actually declare a pandemic until just a few weeks ago, the WHO, and I think that Trump, I think he put in place flight restrictions from China before that. I'm just saying, but the science, this is a criticism to the WHO. I find it incredible how slow they've been in declaring it a pandemic when it was so rife in different pockets of the world.
I think you're right that he had some flight restrictions in place before the WHO officially declared it a pandemic. And that is a positive step. I will admit that is something he has done right in restricting flights. It's unfortunate. It's horrible for some people. And as I said, my own secretary is stuck in Guatemala. Part of that is not so much the U.S., because the U.S. actually wasn't stopping the flights from Guatemala. Guatemala has a very minimal outbreak at this point, but Guatemala shut down all flights. They just said, we're going to shut down the airport.
Yeah. And it's been like that a few weeks now, hasn't it? 3 weeks, something like that?
Yeah. She was supposed to fly back about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago. Right. And her flight got canceled. Then she rescheduled for another flight. That was the airline that canceled the flight, not the government. And then she got a substitute flight the next day that got canceled. Then she was told she'd have to be routed through Atlanta and go through a screening process and then fly back to LA. So she booked that one, and then that one got canceled. And then the Guatemalan president just shut down the airports. So apparently, as frustrating as it is, as people, as much as we feel this is a horrible restriction on our freedom, shutting down the travel right now is a necessary step. And the governments that have taken that step, including President Trump, that has been a correct step to take.
Just going to take a few comments, and then I want to ask you about another theory about that Easter statement from Trump. But first of all, just take a few comments. Tanis Pullen says bioweapon. Jamie Mitchell, given that the Wuhan lab was near the wet market, so take from that what you like. Keith D says that Trump is having a chat this afternoon. Amanda Thompson, if it was deliberately released, no, we don't. She's talking to Keith there. Jamie Mitchell and the Chinese espionage in Canada to steal biological material. Just as a brief aside on that, Michael, there was this story, wasn't there, about a Chinese, some Chinese folks working with a professor. Was it at Harvard University? And a professor at Harvard was subsequently arrested. Do you know what I'm referring to there? It was quite a curious.
No, that I don't know.
That happened just after the coronavirus became a story in Wuhan, when it was still just centralized in Wuhan. But that was a story that came at around the same time.
I know about the doctor in China who first disclosed that this was a serious problem, and then supposedly he was shut up or shut down or
he was imprisoned.
whatever, and supposedly he passed away from the virus. I know about that. It's impossible to keep track of every single, story and theory that's happening out there.
No, sure.
And I've heard a lot of them. Part of the problem is that that we have trouble trusting those in charge because they've done some stupid things in the past. The medical community has done stupid things in the past. One of the big pharmaceutical companies accidentally spilled some live polio virus in a river in Europe a few years ago. How do you accidentally spill several liters of live polio virus? It makes it hard to trust them. We have in the United States a Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, former head of what I call the CIA, and he was. You can see video of him speaking to a group last year, that in the CIA, we lied, we cheat, we stole. we had like a training course for it, and it helps to remind you of the great American experiment. Okay, well, I don't like being lied to, and when he admits we lie to people as a system, that makes it hard to trust them. So
it does.
This is a problem.
It's a real problem. It's a real problem with the media as well, isn't it?
It's a problem being able to trust those in charge.
Yeah, and equally, you don't know what to trust in the media, frankly, or online, anywhere. I mean, frankly, you shouldn't trust anybody, including me, because everybody can be wrong anyway, and one has to do their own research. But then, when you do your own research, what do you trust there? it's a great difficulty,
right?
And so-called experts very often are bored, and so on and so forth. Very frustrating.
Yeah,
okay,
I hear a lot from a lot of sources. I don't necessarily talk about all of them to everybody, but I do hear a lot from a lot of sources. I have a lot of connections with a lot of people across a wide spectrum of things. And the point I'm trying to make is that it is hard to determine what's real. It is very hard.
Yeah.
And I do try to focus on what I call conspiracy history rather than on conspiracy theory. But for example, the US military eventually admitted that back in the early 70s, they released a biological agent on the streets here in California to see what it would do. And you can look that up and you can Google that and you'll find legitimate news sources reporting on that someone from the military actually admitted that was done. That's a problem. Yes. That's the kind of thing that makes us more likely to believe that this virus accidentally was released from a biological weapons lab. And you know what? Americans have less trust for the Chinese government than they do for the US government.
Well, I would hope so. I would certainly hope so. Just take a few more comments, and then I want to come right back to there. David Laddie says, it is snowing where he is now. Good on you, David. That's probably a fantastic incubator for coronavirus. All those flakes falling from the sky are probably coronavirus mixed in with chemtrails, just for you. David Laddie says, he says, Corona snow. He says also, David Laddie, China and the EU teamed up to stop Brexit and bring down Trump. Well, that is one theory we've touched on already. Amanda Rolfson says they wanted to get control over the huge protests as they were out of control. People in China call this the CCP virus. I said it before, I know, but hey. And it has been very convenient, it has to be said, Michael. It's shut down Hong Kong protests, shut down protests all over the world, actually. I think there's at least, a couple of dozen hotspots for protests around the world, one way and another, most famously in Europe, for example, in France, in France. But all over, as I understand it. Kenneth Noel Curran says maybe Ollie will invite Based Amy for an exchange of ideas, constructive critical thinking. I've got Based Amy on Skype, and I'd like to do that, Kenneth. Thank you. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. I had a nice chat with her a few weeks ago, off the back of some of the hardships that she's faced. Bless her. Keith D says the white hats know what's going on, all under control. Michael, just a brief aside again. What are your thoughts on Q? Because if you're watching Q, I'll give you, actually, let's lead this into the question I was going to ask you about, well, what to believe and things like that. Because Trump's Easter reference, saying this is all going to be contained by Easter, it kind of got me thinking about Q. And one thing that he says a lot, or they say, or it says, she says, whatever, follow the white rabbit. And I wanted to ask you about this because of your
knock, Neo.
Hey, well, yeah, that's right. Because adrenochrome, huh? Now, I don't know if you ever prescribe that to any of your patients.
No, I don't prescribe. I do not prescribe adrenochrome. I don't actually prescribe medicine.
That's what it is, isn't it? That's the reference. Follow the white rabbit is talking about the genetic. What it looks like is like a rabbit, and that for adrenochrome. And I just wonder if Trump, because he has been very cryptic in the past, if he's actually basically saying, hey, hope the withdrawal is going well now that you can't get your adrenochrome, because I've shut down a lot of human trafficking and what have you. And one of the places for this stuff to be produced apparently was in Wuhan, and another one was in northern Italy, adrenochrome apparently. And it just kind of makes me wonder if there is something else going on here, and if there are actually possibly mass arrests going on amongst the hyper elite, and that this is, whether or not it started out as such, whether it is maybe being used as a kind of a cover to somehow help to drain the swamp.
I've heard those theories. I don't know how much of your audience knows what adrenochrome is. The idea is that that there's like a super adrenaline that is released by people when they're in the worst state of fear, and that there are elite people that prey upon, for example, children, get them all afraid, and even torture or kill somebody. And then as their body releases the adrenochrome, they collect it, and then this is a drug that they use. I don't know. I don't do that kind of thing. I'm not into that kind of thing. Apparently, I'm not elite. I haven't been invited to any adrenochrome parties. I do know that adrenaline itself, I mean, I am a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I do some things that are, somewhat dangerous sports and activities. I'm not a skydiver, but I do ride a motorcycle through LA traffic. That's kind of dangerous all by itself. And, I ride electric unicycles. I ride them up trails along the edges, trails.
Really? Those things are mad.
Cliffs overlooking the ocean and stuff. I will do stuff. And so I do know that adrenaline, as it's released in your system, it is a bit of a high. Does that mean for sure that there is an adrenochrome conspiracy? Honestly, I don't know. This is one of those things.
It is a drug.
It is of it, so I'm suspicious, but I'm not convinced. So
well, it is a registered drug, isn't it, Michael? The question is, I don't know whether or not people are off it because they've been forced to, and if I don't know how widespread this is. I really don't know. I mean, there are people that say it is as widespread as psychotics in power, and psychotics in power is
that's pretty widespread.
Pretty widespread, yeah.
Yeah. To answer your first question, I don't buy into Q. I know a lot of people do. I will from time to time check and see what's being said, what the claims are. And like anything else, I investigate it. I see how much evidence is there. As an attorney, I do focus heavily on evidence. And when you see evidence of something, that doesn't guarantee that the thing is real, but it's some evidence. So again, I kind of rate myself. Am I suspicious? Am I convinced? Are there several things going on that make me suspicious? Absolutely, there are. Have they got me completely convinced? No. Have there, for example, been some arrests that have happened in some fairly elite places? And yeah, there's been some things that have happened apparently connected with the Vatican, for example, and you got the head of the Vatican police that stepped down recently. Does that mean that Trump or some other person is out there cleaning the world of pedophiles or some other kind of criminals? I don't know, but there's people that claim that.
In fairness, he does have some form on that. There is at least now, it's a good thing, is it not, that there is a secretary in the White House now in charge of human trafficking. That's an incredible first, is it not, from this administration to...
Human trafficking is a serious problem, and it has been for a long time. Slavery does still happen.
Yeah.
And it happens even in the United States. There have been people that have been shipped here from different parts of Asia in crates on shipping containers. We know this for sure, that there has been human trafficking. There's been sex trafficking, where people have been trafficked to basically be forced into providing basically prostitution in different forms. And it is a form of slavery. We know this. These things have been revealed. How deep does it go? Does it go deeper than what the mainstream news has reported? Probably. I mean, most things we only find out kind of the tip of the iceberg. With the mafia, if you arrest John Gotti and put him in prison, does that mean the entire mafia is cleared up? No. There's obviously still people out there doing things.
Yeah, sure.
So then we're left kind of speculating, how far does it go? I think it's appropriate. And again, you know me, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Should he be given credit for having people in charge of helping to crack down on human trafficking? Yeah, that's a positive step. That's a step I agree with. That is an important issue that needs to be dealt with and addressed. Human rights are important, period. Yeah. We need to be doing things to help with human rights. I think there's other people that have human rights that I personally think are not adequately being addressed. Palestine, for example, and that may make me somewhat unpopular to say that. And I do have Jewish blood. The family name was originally Feingold. And my grandpa changed it to Finley in the 40s because he couldn't get a job in LA that was decent because Germany hadn't cornered the market on being a racist. So, so I'm not truly Irish. I got a little Irish from my mom's side, but on my dad's side, no Irish.
That's all right. I'll still drink a Beamish with you, mate.
So I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Jews, but I do think that's a problem. And when you have our own government trying to say, thou shalt not criticize Israel, I'm sorry, but I have a First Amendment right to speak out.
You know what? Actually, I didn't know you had Jewish blood. I have Jewish blood too. I feel exactly the same way as you do. And again, I know that this will not be popular with a lot of people out there, but I find the way that the Israeli state has treated the Palestinian people, which should be a state, I don't see why it isn't.
Human rights issue
is appalling. But I do wonder, looking at it from Trump's point of view, if you like playing maybe sort of 4D chess or what have you, he has to have somebody on his side, because when he was running for POTUS, he didn't have anybody in the GOP on his side. of course they weren't on his side on the other side of the aisle. I think the Bush family even, made a point of saying that they didn't even vote for him. And then now, subsequently, well, actually, even before he made the White House, even before Inauguration Day, he destroyed the old GOP, the Republican Party, and subsequently has destroyed the Democratic Party. You could argue, with the Mueller investigation having gone tits up, and then the impeachment, being so partisan and what have you, which for somebody like me who is not partisan yet, I know I come across as a madcap Trump supporter or what have you. I just want to think the best of him because he happens to be the bloke with the power, if you like. And I wanted to think the best of Obama as well. That didn't last long, yeah. And but go way back when. But it does seem to me, one who is a proud floating voter, if you like, that it's a great thing that he has almost single-handedly, really, destroyed geopolitical politics, or at least that is a position that maybe the United States could be going towards. It's kind of a question there.
Yeah, it was like half of a question mark there. I don't see it that way. But yeah, I never bought into the whole Russia conspiracy thing. Okay, I didn't. I never did. Not because I have any affinity for Trump, but because I believe our buddy from WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, he's not even accused of making false reports. He's accused of revealing truth.
Yeah. And
he said very clearly, I didn't get those leaked emails from Russia. And actually in Mueller's report, it came down to that nobody from Russia, he couldn't prove that anyone from Russia contacted WikiLeaks until after he already made the leak. So they clearly weren't the source. I probably shouldn't have been touching my face, although I did sanitize a couple times since I've even been here talking. And that's something I've been actually trying to pay attention to myself, because I am the kind of person who will lean down and put my hand on my chin while I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And, scratch
I'm
my head.
scratching my chin a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I never bought into the whole Russiagate thing because I trust Julian Assange, another person who I think Trump should do a better job of respecting his rights. He's never.
That's a fascinating one as well, because I kind of agree with you about that. On the other hand, then other people point out to me that Julian Assange has put people's lives at risk through some of the things that he said where there haven't been the proper redactions. So is the United States not obligated, whatever, Assange did perhaps to help inadvertently Trump, you could argue, with his election, or at least certainly Assange brought to light some of the horrid aspects of Hillary Clinton, it seems to me, and of the deep state more widely. Whatever he's done, right or wrong, and whatever way you'd argue it, has he not also put American lives at risk? And from that point of view, should Trump not be looking to get him on trial?
I think that it's extremely dangerous to be trying to put a journalist in jail for reporting truth.
But journalists do withhold names when they might be put at risk, though, or should do.
I keep hearing this very vague thing, and it's not even your fault, because everybody that has said this has been vague exactly who was put in danger.
Yeah, no, I am vague. I fully admit, because I don't know the details.
Who put in danger? Did Hillary Clinton get put in danger? Did the Democratic National Committee get put in danger? Who got put in danger? With which report? When he released documents showing that U.S. aid to other countries was then going to known terrorist groups like Boko Haram in Africa, like ISIS and Al Qaeda and Al Nusra. Did that endanger somebody, some American citizen?
Yeah.
Who got endangered by these reports?
Yeah.
When he revealed documents showing that our allies, particularly countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Qatar or however you pronounce that thing, QATAR, that these countries were using
Qatar.
money that we were giving them to support terrorism.
Yeah.
Who exactly got put in danger for these things?
Yeah.
I want to know. Before you tell me he should be punished, I want to know who actually got put in danger. And so far, I haven't heard any report that has said that. Now, we are seeing now, because he didn't even live in the USA. He wasn't doing anything in the USA. He's not a US citizen. And he was apparently falsely accused of rape, and those charges got dropped. And
yeah, no, I hear you.
Exactly,
I hear you. And it has to be said,
it's
also,
very dangerous to attack. If I do a report, if I set up a website and I do a report and I say something that the Chinese government does not like, does the Chinese government have the right to try to extradite me to China to punish me for saying things that the Chinese leadership doesn't like? Because that's basically what's happening here, except it's America instead of China. To say we should be able to extradite you to the USA to put you on trial. And Trump himself said, maybe we should kill the guy. Maybe he should be executed. Hillary made very aggressive comments about him as well. This is not right to do this to a news reporter who, again, has never been even accused of saying something that's false.
Yeah,
the actual accusation is the stuff he's revealing is too true.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with
precedent.
you. I would
It's
tend to agree with
super
that.
dangerous.
He has effectively.
Truth. If the truth is dangerous, then maybe the government should be more careful about what it does.
Yeah.
Instead of getting so upset with those who reveal what it does.
Thank you for that take. It has to be said also that he's been effectively punished for 10 years now.
Years.
Huge chunk of his life. I want to ask you in closing, Michael, please, what you think is going to be the entertainment at the back end of the year. Is there going to be an election in November? And, do you think that Biden has a hope in hell?
He might now, depending on how people really react to Trump's handling of the outbreak. I really didn't think he did. To me, honestly, I've been calling Biden Diet Trump. They're a similar age. They're white male patriarchy kind of people. Biden has a history of doing some things that are actually should be questioned by African Americans. For example, what he did to Anita Hill during the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings. And he tried to apologize to Anita Hill. She said, your apology is not accepted. You're not forgiven. What you did to me was inexcusable, and you can't just apologize that away. And so he used to be quite a bit aligned with some unquestionably racist Republicans in the government. I'm not ready to accept Biden as, this is the new Biden. I'm not ready to believe that. I don't trust him. And he says some really weird things. He says this story about the kids in the neighborhood pool playing with the hair on his legs and stuff. Like, what the heck? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And, he's got the nickname Gropin' Joe.
Yeah.
I don't.
There's
I don't
another
think,
allegation just come out in the last 24 hours,
Yeah,
I think.
I personally don't think Biden is any better for the country than Trump is. Honestly, if I'm really going to be frank, and again, I'm independent. I don't have I don't have a horse in this race. I don't
Okay.
have a dog
Let me
in this
ask you.
hunt.
Let me ask you from a different perspective then, maybe. I mean, do you see any of this draining of the swamp so far? Is there not, has there not been a fair bit of draining of the swamp with Trump? And do you think that would go into overdrive in a second term, or do you think that actually maybe it's all talk?
I have not seen the swamp being drained. I've seen him put bigger alligators in the swamp. I think you take the head of ExxonMobil, you put him in charge of international affairs. That's not draining the swamp. That's a bigger alligator. He's gone. He's had a steady parade of people that are connected with huge, oil industry, with the military industrial complex, with the CIA. To me, that's not cleaning up the swamp. That's putting in bigger alligators. I'm not buying into that. This idea of cleaning up the swamp, I personally, I'm not observing it. What do I think he's going to do in the second term? One thing he's going to do is he's going to pardon a few people. He'll pardon Paul Manafort. A friend of mine is a cousin of his, by the way. And so, used to have his mom tell him, why can't you be more like your cousin Paul? Look how successful he is. Look, he's got, $10,000 suits. Why can't you be like Paul? Now he's like, oh,
Yeah.
you still want me to be like Paul, Ma?
Yeah, that's right.
So
he's now got lovely orange jumpsuits.
Right. But we can expect, and not just because it's Trump, because this is what politicians do. In a second term, when it can't hurt his reelection, that's the time to pardon people. Most presidents issue some pardons at the end of their terms. And we had something like that happen with Chelsea Manning a few years ago. And you know what? I gave compliments for that. Because that was something that I agreed with, and honestly, I think Julian Assange deserves also a pardon. He's not going to get it. That's not one of the pardons that's going to happen. The biggest thing with this possible second term, honestly, hands down, the biggest issue is the Supreme Court. But now healthcare has become a huge issue. But your primary candidate who's pushing a nationalized healthcare system, which is Bernie Sanders, he's not doing so well anymore. So Bernie Sanders it's not probably going to be Trump versus Bernie in November. It's probably going to be Trump versus Biden. I don't know that Biden can make healthcare that big of an issue when he hasn't made it as big of an issue as he would have needed to make it before, as Sanders was doing. The Supreme Court is a big deal. Right now, there's a 5-4 majority of conservatives on the Supreme Court. Part of that is largely because of Trump having done the last 2 appointments, including one that could have happened during Obama's last term. Now we've got 2 people that are likely to retire in one way or another within the next 4 years.
Yes. And
whoever is president are going to replace them. So if you have a Democrat in there, you're going to probably maintain the 5-4 conservative majority. If Trump's in there, you're going to have a 7-2 conservative supermajority, which we haven't seen in like half a century.
Yeah, no, that's right.
So that is your much, much bigger issue. And I've heard people say, before this outbreak got as out of hand as it has, and it is getting back in hand, I do believe it's going to get under control. And I believe this administration is finally taking all of the steps to get it under control. But I heard people saying, it's going to be whether you're in favor of abortion or gun rights. And actually, I'm in favor of both. So again, where do I have a horse in this race? But that's gonna be a big deal. And I'm hopeful that if that a conservative majority doesn't just overturn Roe versus Wade willy-nilly. I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that women's rights are going to still be respected. I know people are going to say, wait a minute, it's not women's rights, it's baby rights. Okay, and that is part of the problem, is that's an issue where people aren't even talking about it from the same level. One is focused on the woman, one is focused on the baby, and we can't even meet and have any kind of a conversation in the middle because there is an entirely different focus. I get that. I used to be religious. When I was religious, I was more focused on the baby. When I left religion, I really had to evaluate myself and think how much of my opinion on this issue was because of my religion. And it turned out for me, all of my opinion on that issue was influenced by my religion. Now it's not. And I can't expect that everybody's going to automatically make the same transition that I did. So this is a big, big issue. And yes, this is a great time for those who are in favor of a widespread reform of the health system to be pushing for that if that's your issue. We definitely need some improvements in our healthcare system. But it's not our health system in the United States, honestly, it's not completely broken. And we may get through this with exactly the system we've got. And then there's an argument that maybe we don't need that change.
Will there not need
in
to
the
be?
healthcare system.
Just on that,
What's
just
that?
briefly. Well, actually, a couple of things. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, maybe she's on adrenochrome. How does she, Supreme Court Justice Ruth? I don't know. I'm being a bit unfair.
I don't know. Did you think that
she's
Antonin and Scalia was on it? Because they were like best friends and would like have lunch together every day. I mean, this was like you had an arch liberal and an arch conservative who loved each other and appreciated each other and were friends with each other. We all ought to learn from that, how to love and respect each other despite having wide ranges of differences of opinion.
Well, Michael, you and I do, sir. You and I do. Just
Definitely.
one thing about the healthcare situation in the UK with this, as these cases are clearly going to get worse and worse, and presumably what's going to happen in the States is what has been happening everywhere else. So at the moment in the States, it's, well, I mean, there's 100,000 plus cases, what have you. But compare that to Europe, and it's a lot less. But it's going to get up there, and it's going to continue increasing in Europe, and it's going to continue. It's going to get pretty horrid, frankly. And at that stage, at least in places like the UK, for example, there's a national health service which is pretty substantial. In Spain, where I am, for example, there's a similar deal. In Germany, there's a similar deal. There are big welfare systems already in place to try and help people. In the US, it's considerably less so, and it's far more of a private system, bar with, Medicaid and now with Obamacare chucked onto that. How is the States poised to cope without, for example, the government appropriating private hospitals and making them publicly accessible, for example? I mean, is that not going to be necessary for there not to be a huge social health problem in the United States?
A pandemic like this is going to overwhelm systems, and it's going to overwhelm many of them. Okay, it's pretty much sent the entire stock market into the toilet. In New York, the morgues are being overrun. They're having to bring in extra trucks to handle dead bodies. The U.S. has dispatched, again, a positive thing the administration has done. They've dispatched Navy medical ships to key areas on the West Coast and the East Coast to be able to provide support. So there are ways that government resources have been put into play in a positive way. This does not necessarily mean that the whole system has to be reformed. Any system, whether it's a socialist system or whether it's a private system, is going to be overwhelmed. In Italy, they've been having to say, if you're over 60, we can't make you a priority to treat you. We got to let you die or see if you survive while we focus on the younger people that have a better chance of living. That's a horrible decision to have to make. They're making it because they're overwhelmed. Pretty sure Italy is not an American style healthcare system. They still got overwhelmed. So this does not necessarily mean that we can't handle it. The doctors in the US are good. Hospitals in the US are good. Are they perfect? No. Are they perfect anywhere? Hell no. There's no perfect system anywhere. We're gonna, what I predict is gonna happen is this is going to give us opportunities to learn and grow in many ways. And because we're not globalist, because we're not under a one world government, under a single system, we're going to see that there's different things being tried around the world, and we're going to get an opportunity to see what worked best. And then systems can be used to look into that, and they can say, hey, I think we should change our system to be more this way. That's what I see happening. I see us evolving, growing, whatever word you want to use. Some people don't like the evolution word, but I like it, and I see us growing. I see us making progress. I see us learning from this. And you know what? We do learn from mistakes. We do, hopefully. And this is one we're going to learn from. And again, not all of this is mistakes. A lot of decisions that were made were based upon past experience where pandemics fizzled out. We haven't had something like this since about 1918 with the Spanish flu pandemic. We don't even know how many people died. It overwhelmed the system at the time so badly. We have an estimate of between 50 million and 100 million people that died in the global Spanish flu pandemic of 1918.
That's right.
Because so many people died, we were just like, piling up bodies in mass graves, throwing them all into a crematorium, whatever, to get rid of them. We don't even have time to document who all died from it and how many of them were from the Spanish flu. So that hopefully, with our improvements in sanitary techniques and in healthcare, hopefully we're not going to see anywhere near those kinds of numbers from this global pandemic. But it's been literally 102 years since we had a pandemic that we can even compare to this.
Oh, hold on. Oh, Michael, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'll do that again. Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no, hold on. I didn't mean to do that either. I was about to do it. Oh, Michael Finley. I did do that, didn't I? God bless you, mate. Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very much indeed for popping on Daily Chaos.
Love you, man. We need to meet up.
Yeah.
Smoke a joint together, buddy.
Yeah, man. Do.
Should have been like the Joe Rogan show. There should have been blunts all around.
Oh, mate. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Say hi to Tears for me. Missed that guy.
Yeah, I did. The thing is, he's under the thumb. This is what I was going to say to you, actually. I did invite him on, old Piers.
Right.
But he this quarantine that started in London started when his girlfriend was staying with him or something. And so they decided, well, just stay here. And so they're riding it out together. So he's, as he said to me, in a baptism of fire now. Yeah.
Quarantine buddies, yeah.
Yeah, and they are a Corona couple.
Maybe you need to play Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones as your exit music now.
Under my thumb. Thank you very much indeed, Michael Finley. God bless you, and
Great
good luck with
you,
this thing. As it,
Stay safe, stay healthy, and everybody, take some personal responsibility. Let's get through this. We will get through this.
Damn right.
All around the world, we're going to get through this.
God bless you, sir. 99.
Take care.
Cheerio.